I'm missing my what?
Your mask.
No, I don't want to scare people. I did it after we were done streaming.
Hey.
Okay, so does anybody see it right now?
So go ahead.
Started, you should have it on, and they'd say, "This is what the delay was about."
Yeah, hang on, Pete.
That would freak everybody out.
Can we just check whether or not it's streaming again?
I wish they sold Darth Vader masks.
It's live.
We're
live.
live. Yay!
Yeah, there it
Hey,
goes.
look at that. So, no intro. You're gonna have to settle for no intro because YouTube loves to mess with me. So we are live for another biddle. Hold on. Stand by while I mute all of these people here.
Rude.
We are live for another biddle on Saturday, April 4th, 2020. Now, how is everybody doing?
We're doing
Fantastic.
just fine.
Fine, thank you.
Good, thank you.
I like that April Fool's joke you just pulled a couple
Don't
days
forget
late.
the open sign, Rocco.
Start.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're open sign.
Tony, I'm all out of sorts, but we are open for business.
Still getting my audio.
But I thought you were going to have a Raspberry Pi to automatically turn the sign on at 8 o'clock.
Barb, I can't even get the stream right, and you want me to have a Raspberry Pi? I mean, come on. Be real here.
You make me feel
All right, so you got to laugh about this stuff, otherwise
Yeah.
you drive yourself crazy. So YouTube has given us issues. So last week it gave us issues while I was using Restream, and this week I inserted the YouTube stream key, and it's giving us issues again. So now I went back to Restream, and it seems to be working. So hey, there you go. What can I
Hey,
say?
that's Google. What do you expect? And next week you'll have to put the mixer stream in the week after the library stream, and the week after that.
Turn that off.
I love
It's
it.
not right there.
All right, so here's the deal. We are a little bit late, but we still tried Linux Mint Debian Edition 4 for our distro challenge. This is the final week. A lot of people went last week on their opinions on Linux Mint Debian Edition, but we're going to go through the list again, and we're going to get through everybody and talk about our experiences with it. So, PZ, why don't you start us off and tell us your final thoughts on Linux Mint Debian Edition?
All right. Well, I'm really happy to say that Linux Mint Debian Edition has been one of those distros that the old cliche, it just works. Every time I've used it to this week, I've fired it up, I've started my applications, I've had no crashes, I've had no weirdness, and it just rolls along. So I can't say anything better than that, because if you come here and you've got a big long list of, well, I wish it did this and I don't like the way it does that, and maybe that should do that, then things aren't. Oh, hang on, who's murdering the keyboard? Sorry. When you're not chatting, can you just mute yourself so that we don't?
How long we been doing this?
I think this is our second.
It was Michael. I got him.
I love it.
No, it was not.
It was.
It was.
I'm
but-
muted at all times. I don't have to be muted on the thing. I'm muted on my plasma.
Hold on, let me mute him so he can be muted at all times.
I'm now muted at.
Yeah. So unlike all the problems we have with Michael, Linux Mint has been absolutely great. So
Fake news.
Gets a good double thumbs up from me, because you open it up and everything that I wanted to do just works. So good job.
All right, very nice. Dan, sir, how are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I didn't do a ton more with LMDE this week, but yeah, I'll echo what Zeb says. It's kind of one of the boring ones. It just does its thing, and it's pretty great that it's got the Debian backing as well as Ubuntu backing, and packages are there. They may be a little older in Debian, but not too much, and it's just kind of great. So no complaints here.
All right. Well, Nate, he's way across the room. Wait, here he comes. Hi, Nate.
I didn't do anything with Linux Mint Debian. So
Okay, I just wanted to see you come all the way across the room, so you can go back to your portal now. Whatever you're doing over there.
I was checking the warp engines. So
Good. Keep
Yeah,
those online.
they're fine. They're fine.
We might need
Yeah.
to get out of here soon.
no breach here, coolant leaks. We're all good.
Okay. Oh goodness, Nate. All right, Eris.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
Good.
You did go last week. I just didn't know if you had any further thoughts, just real quickly.
Yeah. When I installed Linux Mint Debian Edition, it wouldn't detect my monitors properly. Like I think it's my NVIDIA graphics. There's some issue with it during the installer. So what I did is I purged the NVIDIA packages, and then I went to the wiki for Debian, and then I installed the 390 driver, which is the one I'm supposed to get, and it worked. I'm not sure why that happened, but that fixed it. I tried installing Snap packages, and that they don't seem like they're set up for it, because if you install Snap, you got to add it to the path. It doesn't do it automatically. I think Debian does that. I'm not entirely sure if Debian does that by like if you install a Snap package, if it automatically works, or you have to add it to the path. But for Linux Mint Debian Edition, it doesn't work.
Did you actually install Snapd?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if that works. I think overall it's okay, but you really do miss the Ubuntu base, I think, overall, because like the drivers, I don't have a driver that requires a proprietary driver for the Wi-Fi, but I know that there's no manager for drivers, just like in Debian there isn't, and Linux Mint didn't address that at all. So I'm not sure how that works for somebody who does need that. And there's no option like in the Ubuntu base, you know how like you can switch out the proprietary driver for the free driver for graphics. There's none of that at all in the settings. Okay, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think that just goes to prove how much we've gotten used to being handheld by Ubuntu. So that when all of those things that you just mentioned, there's no Wi-Fi manager driver, there's no video manager driver where you can just click and install the proprietary drivers. But when you move slightly off base to something like this, you go, oh, I'd rather miss that. Now I've got to teach myself how to do it the good old-fashioned manual way. So yeah, that's very, very interesting. Thank you, Aris. So Eric, any more thoughts on your experiences with LMDE?
I really, I went on my crazy journey last week, and I never really came back to it. So nope, nothing new for me.
Okay, cool. Tony, good evening.
Good evening.
And how did you get on with the second week for Linux Mint?
Exactly the same as the first week. It works perfectly. Doesn't put a foot wrong. I can only repeat the same thing as I said last week. If I could get the scanner, which I still can't get to work in it, I would consider using it on the main machine, which is a shame, but it really does look good, works well. It's a double thumbs up from me.
All right. Thanks, Tony. Dave, how are you this evening?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
Not bad. You got any further thoughts on LMDE?
Only that in the midst of having to rebuild that machine because a hard drive died in my wife's computer, I spent a very frustrated week and often took my frustration out on LMDE. And in spite of that, I could not get it to crash and break again. So it very much gets my sledgehammer-proof seal of approval. I did everything short of uninstalling it, and I couldn't get it to break again.
Nice.
It's on to your tricks, Dave. It's on to your tricks.
Was it like that thing where you get rid of it and it just keeps coming back? Like you wiped your hard drive and you boot it up and it was still there. And
haven't tried that yet, so maybe I should worry.
You might have to worry.
It could be worse. That's for sure.
That is true. It would not be a bad thing to not be able to get rid of.
Yep. Cool. Thanks, Dave. Michael, how are you this evening?
Stupendous.
Excellent. What do you think of LMDE?
I think it's really good. I think it's probably one of the better options for a default Debian without having to use Debian and setting up all the. It's got a nice polish to it that you kind of expect from Mint. I think that it makes more sense just to use the regular Mint though, just because you're going to get more updates faster and everything. But if you want the regular Debian approach, the Mint's a good option.
Yes, totally agree. Peter, how are you, sir?
Enjoying a day off, but Linux Mint Debian works great, no problems.
That's all you got. It works great.
Yeah.
That's exactly what most people have too. And I think that's a good thing. You know, we had talked about Ubuntu the one week, and we had kind of said it was boring, you know, because it kind of is boring because it just
By
works.
the way,
and it's
I'm
stable.
gonna, since it's my turn to speak, I'm going to say we ban the word boring. The word boring does not exist in the Linux vocabulary. It should be called stable.
Okay, so Ubuntu is boring. And it's meant to be boring. It's meant to be just there and working. And I think actually the Ubuntu people took it as a compliment because we said that, because that's what it is.
Yeah,
it's stable.
LMDE would fit that too.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. All right, Big Pod, sir, how are you?
I'm doing fine, and I tried LMD on a live stream. It worked fine, didn't break, which is a new thing for me. And well, what can I say? It worked, but I'm not overly impressed with Debian.
Why is that?
Debian is supposed to work. So that something based on Debian is working is like saying that for sure it's
No,
going to
I
work.
thought you meant you said you weren't impressed, or you were impressed.
Weren't
or you
surprised. He wasn't surprised.
Surprised. I'm sorry. I thought you said impressed.
Impressed because it's supposed to work. It's Debian.
Okay, gotcha. Well, yeah. Sorry. I guess it's what is it? It's like the Maytag guy that comes to it's to fix the.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't come fix it because it's not broken.
That's right. It just never breaks. Well.
Although I think it is kind of. I didn't test it with my new hardware because I haven't tested LMD4, but I would suspect because it's based on Debian that the newer hardware wouldn't work just because of the requirements necessary. So I think there is a thing there to say like it'll just work. If it works, it'll just work mostly. But if it doesn't work on your hardware, it's not gonna.
Yeah, fair point. All right, PayPal. Do I have to call you that? Can I call you Derek? You know what? I'm sorry. I'll call
you. Can call me late to dinner if you want.
How's it going?
It's not bad. It's taken me a little bit getting used to Zipper, and I haven't really messed with Snapper yet, but the OS is pretty good, I think. We are talking about OpenSUSE, right?
No.
You are, yes.
Oh, yes, I am. Sorry, I didn't get
wondering. I mean, you said Zipper, and I'm like thinking, okay, maybe I'm missing something.
No, I haven't had a chance to mess with Linux Mint Debian edition, so Debian doesn't really excite me very much.
Wow, poor Debian, just not getting the love tonight. Okay, all right. Well, we'll see what Thomas. I know you went. Did you go last week, Thomas? No, you didn't. Oh, yes, you did.
Yes, I did, but I actually have more to report.
Oh my, let's hear it.
So I took Linux Mint Debian and I threw it at my mother, figuratively. So full disclosure, my mother is not a Linux user. She's a longtime Windows user, but she's not a power user. So I figure a distro like this would be something that would be good for her if she were to decide to start using Linux.
As long as you don't literally throw it at her.
Yeah. And her response to it was, as long as she could get her files onto LMDE, she would be able to use LMDE like she uses Windows now, and it wouldn't hinder her at all. So I know, I think Linux Mint, they try really hard to make it easy for new users. So the fact that an average user like my mother is able to use Linux Mint Debian Edition as they would their normal computer, I think that's a good sign that they're headed down the right track. I think the only thing she would need to install would literally be Dropbox, and voila, she's good. So because of that, I think they're doing a great job. And that's about all I have otherwise to report.
Well, thank you, Thomas. So we have Tony from the Mintcast here.
Hi, guys.
How are you, Tony?
I'm fine. Thank you.
So have you used this elusive Debian edition of Mint this
I'm on
week?
it. I'm on it as we speak.
So what can you tell us?
Well, nothing much more than what I said last week. After I managed to get it to boot with the problem I had with Grub on the Dell, it's been stable as anything. It works, as everyone else has said. There's no dramas. I've had it installed for just over 2 weeks now, and it's as stable as anything on this laptop. Had a couple of upgrades. Been a couple of things come down the pipeline, but nothing, no drama, no nothing. Everyone else's experience is pretty well same as mine.
So with the insight you get from dealing with the Mintcast crew, what would you say to someone? Would you push them towards this or to the standard edition?
I think it depends on your user case. For me, I'd probably go with the main branch more because more up-to-date software is available. And you get the more up-to-date kernels. I know Leo's got a little bit more to say on that in a minute. But for someone like the previous case scenario, where it's just someone who does a bit of web browsing, a few documents, it runs, it works, I'd go with it, for the average user that's not a power user.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Tony. We appreciate that. And so that means that we're going to go over to Joe, who is hidden behind a masked figure.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I just threw it in VM this past week. I wasn't here last week with you guys, and I hate to say it. I'm probably like everybody else. I don't have much to say about it because I'm running Mint Cinnamon 19.2 as it is, and it looks pretty much the same. Runs pretty much the same. The only difference I see is the 419 kernel in there, and it's a little bit more stripped out. But even in the VM, I run it in VMware. It's running as if it was running on my native hardware perfectly. So it's very clean looking. I mean, polished like the regular Mint is that I'm on, Cinnamon. So I mean, it's a great distro. I can't really say anything bad about it because for me, again, trying it, it's like working on what I'm doing on every day here, and it seemed to operate just the same way. Very clean.
Nice. Thanks very much, Joe. Mitchell, good to see you back.
It's good to be back, Zeb. How's my audio?
Yeah, your audio is spot on, my friend.
Okay, wonderful.
Did you get a chance to try Linux Mint Debian Edition?
Absolutely. I've been with Debbie for about 3 weeks now, and she's been a great distro. I installed Debbie on a Dell PowerEdge rack server, and it's smooth sailing. One thing that I'd like to know in terms of the technical side of Linux Mint Debian, I would like to defer everyone to DJ Ware's excellent video on Debbie. It was absolutely amazing. One thing I'd like to add, though, is one thing that Debbie does really well is she sort of fills this role that for people that don't like all the updates but they're not comfortable using just a straight server distro like CentOS or vanilla Debian. You get that Mint coat of paint, so to speak, and like if some users when they do their daily updates and they see the update scrolling on the screen, they feel, oh, I've got the latest and greatest, and they feel good. But there's a lot of Linux users, like my parents, for instance, when they see those updates, they get kind of nervous and they want something very static, something very consistent that doesn't change. And usually that means going for something that doesn't hold your hand as much. And I'm really glad that Linux Mint Debian is out there for people that want that extreme stability and that static approach, but need that a little bit of hand holding. And I'm keeping Debbie for a while. I'm very satisfied. I installed GNOME desktop, and it's been working very well. And yeah, nothing but good things to say.
Excellent. That's a very good point as well that you make there, that although Ubuntu is a very good stable desktop, Debian takes it to another level. And yeah, unlike I think Distro Hopper Tony, Bearded Wonder, said that he would prefer something to have the latest and the greatest software. But not everybody likes it, as you pointed out. They just want stability. They just want it to work out of the box every day. So yeah, nice review. Thank you for that. Leo, you came back, so we must have done something right. Welcome.
I'm back. Yeah.
Good man. So, have you got anything to add about Linux Mint Debian Edition?
Yeah, I gotta second Tony on this one, where I'm on it now. I figured there's no way to actually figure this out except for just diving into it. So I hope my audio is better this time around.
It is much better.
Okay, yeah, good. So yeah, the whole deal with that was I was on an Apple device. See, that's what it was. Yeah. So anyway, so now I'm on a really low powered Intel Celeron right now, but I've got my normal audio set up on it, so that's nice. So that was awesome about it. I got it installed. I think Rocco, you had the same installation issues I had, where it was just like, nah, I'm not gonna put it on this drive. No. But outside of that, once it got installed, I plugged everything into it. I got my microphone, my headset. I've got all the software that I normally use for recording the Mintcast on it, and I didn't see a single thing go wrong. I've been earlier today, we actually had our Mintcast meeting, and I figured I'm gonna fire everything up. We got Mumble. I have Audacity recording in the background. I've got Discord going to follow the chats, Telegram going, just the laundry list of all the stuff that I do dealing with the show ever. And even on such a low-powered laptop, I really figured Cinnamon would choke, or something would go wrong with a CPU that's this low-powered, and not a single hiccup. Not a single one. I was actually way more impressed than I was prepared to be. So yeah, and this is not coming from a Mintcast kind of way, just that it's been really good to me this entire time. And I think this little laptop is just going to be my backup if my main recording setup ever decides to blow up one day or something. This will be a nice laptop to just throw in and be like, all right, well, I'll get it recorded. We'll edit some other time, some other way, but it seems to be really, really good. So thanks again for having me on, though.
Well, thanks for being here, Leo. It's good to see you back.
For sure.
Barbara, how are you this evening?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. I didn't get a chance to, ended up not even installing it or even looking at it. I spent time cleaning this week. Took advantage of the fact that I'm stuck in the house. So yeah, so I didn't get a chance to do it at all.
Gotcha. All right. Explorer, good to see you here.
Hey guys, good to see you too.
Yeah.
Although I did not get to try the latest version of Linux Mint Debian Edition, from past experience, it's been a great, stable, solid experience. I love that it has Debian as its base. Props out to the Mint and Debian developers and contributors for all their hard work. That's all I got.
Very nice. Bill?
Sorry. Colin, we're just professional, and I add to the awesome level of professionalism here. So Colin, did you use Linux Mint Debian Edition this week?
Well, I didn't even know it was my turn. I'm actually looking at Zoom here, and I'm in Rocco's position on the top left. It looks like I'm in the driver's seat.
Well, you are in the driver's seat, Colin, so go right ahead, brother.
Yes, I played around a little bit with LMDE 4 this week. Not too much, not as much as I would have liked. But look, I run Debian straight last year, and that was pretty good. And I was running it on SID, and as you know, I blew up the installation. But this is no different to the standard Debian. I tried to install my cherry tree, had the usual problems with that because it's got dependency issues with the cherry tree and the .deb file, but I've managed to install it, and it's just the little messing around that you'd expect in Debian anyway. But besides that, rock solid. Everything seems to run all right. I've done some tried a bit of LibreOffice and a bit of search on the internet and all that sort of stuff. I've used Zoom on here. This is the third time now. And it's just working. So I wouldn't expect anything else being Debian based. It's always rock solid. It's not it doesn't have the most up-to-date packages that Ubuntu will be coming out with on 2004, but they're up-to-date good enough to satisfy most people. So it's a good distro.
Oh, outstanding. Well, I appreciate that, Colin. So Penguin, I think you did a live stream today. Were you able to find time in that busy schedule of yours to get Debian a go?
Linux Mint Debian Edition I've been trying out for the past month, actually. So now the only thing that I have a problem, usually I really don't care about the kernel version, is the kernel version. 4.19 is now the old LTS kernel, and because 5.4 has now been released as a long-term support. So I think they need to start pushing that a little bit, because you don't have the FreeSync gaming drivers and stuff like that inside that kernel. Now you can get so that's the first thing I always update whenever I'm running a Debian stable these days. Other than that, I stopped testing it out about Wednesday. But one thing about Eric, don't uninstall Aptitude. I broke it. I tried to pull Aptitude out, and
yeah, not surprising.
Yeah, I had to restore time shift on that. So yeah, don't do that. Unless you want to go and install APT standard on it first. But other than that, I didn't have a problem. The only thing is, yes, you don't get the up-to-date packages, but a lot of people don't really need the latest and greatest. A lot of them just want that stable environment that doesn't change and is not subject to break like Arch can. So yeah, that's about all I have to say about it.
All right, thank you, Penguin. Bill.
Yes, sir.
I know you were busy, brother, but any chance you tried Debian?
Well, I've had an install of LMDE 3 running for a while. So when the beta came out, I actually upgraded during the beta period. And one of the things that they've done really well is they have a nice set of instructions. There are a couple parts that I did it a little early, that were out of order. But the error messages that they give are really detailed. So all you've got to do is go, okay, I have this package installed. It lists that it's failing the upgrade because of this package. Remove it, boom, carry on, redo the upgrade, and boom, it works. And it's really nice. I really think that if you sat somebody down with a computer and you had this or standard Cinnamon, Linux Mint Cinnamon, you really wouldn't have them be able to tell a major difference. It looks so good. They've done a really, really good job. And if someone came to me and said, I want to use Debian, I would recommend this or MX without a doubt.
Very nice. All right, Vince. Good evening,
hey there,
sir.
Rocco.
Or
good evening to you
good
too.
Afternoon, morning, whatever it is for you.
Some say. So I was going to come on and not have much to say about the LMDE sort of desktop experience, because as like everyone else has mentioned, it does work just like Linux Mint does. But then I was in the shower the other day, and because that's where I have my most brilliant thoughts.
Right.
All right. And I was thinking, and my thoughts have ended up echoing what Mitchell said earlier, in that sort of in the same way that Linux Mint is kind of like a gentle introduction for a new user into Linux. LMDE could perhaps be a gentle introduction into the Debian world, because I mean Debian proper itself is not probably the easiest thing to get into. And I mean, I hear the comments about Debian not having the latest packages, but in many scenarios, a thoroughly tested and very stable set of packages may be the perfect option for whether it be the option for someone's desktop or someone's server. LMDE in that situation could be a very solid choice. And particularly because it ends up being a lower barrier of entry with into Debian with some decent community support there over at Linux Mint. But I did come up with an analogy that I would use for the way that I understand that the packages in Debian go from unstable to testing to stable, I think, in that order, over a period of time. And that analogy is of slow-cooked food, because who doesn't like slow-cooked food, right? And this idea came to me when I was watching Steve's very own stream, and Paul in the chat was chatting about slow-cooked food. So as these Debian packages cook, they get very thoroughly tested and tenderized, right? So I'll finish on the note that LMDE to me is probably slow cooking made easy. There you go.
Very nice. I love it.
All right. Well, Joe, good to see you back. I'm glad you made it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you sound fantastic.
Awesome.
We know that you gave some thoughts last week. Was there anything that you've heard so far that you wanted to comment on, or any other thoughts that you had?
Yeah, mostly, just the same stuff. Leo convinced me to run it in a VM and give it a try before the show. So I did, and installed a couple of applications. Everything worked really smooth. Installed X2Go server and client. I haven't been able to connect to the server, but that's because it's in a VM. But client, I was able to use it to connect out to my server, and it works really well.
Excellent. Glad to hear it.
So you would also say that Mint Debian is like Crockpot for distros.
Okay.
Slow and easy.
Okay. Well, there you
that's
go.
that's what Vince is saying.
Right?
You nailed that one, no doubt. Yeah. Anyway, all right. It's okay. We'll move on.
It was a good dad joke. You're welcome.
Thank you, Michael. Electron is back again. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see everybody.
How's it going this week?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, so since Rocco asked if I'd be on tonight, and I said maybe, I thought, well, maybe I will, but I better try. I better try the distro. So
it's never a requirement.
It's not a requirement. It really isn't.
Yeah, but I did want to contribute in some way. But after hearing everybody speak, I'm not sure what I can contribute, because I don't know what else I can add. I did.
You can add dad jokes.
Yeah, I could.
Please don't.
I did. I have a somewhat new Dell XPS 13, the 9300, this year's edition, and I decided to go ahead and just try it out on that, and that was a no-go. I didn't spend a lot of time troubleshooting it, but I'm suspecting with the older kernel and just not having the proper drivers for it, just didn't work. So I tried it out in a VM, worked wonderfully. Actually, I've somewhat stayed away, not on purpose, but just I've been away from Debian, the Debian-based distros for quite some time. Last time I tried Mint, I don't know, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and probably that's the last time I tried Cinnamon. It was a long time ago, but I had really good first impressions of this, and I think with some of the ideas that other people had, if I had a family member that was maybe on the non-technical side, but did want to get away from Windows, maybe had older hardware, wanted to try Linux, I would love to suggest this distro, not only for its stability, or what seems to be very stable, but also the lack of the fact that you'll have software that's not being updated so often. Because if you're going to be suggesting a Linux distro to a family member, the last thing you want probably is to be called every day to be their tech support person. And I think this would be a good distro to where you wouldn't get those calls very often. So I enjoyed it. There's definitely certain use cases where I would probably suggest this as a number one choice.
You and a couple other people mentioned the first impression, and I think it would be an interesting comparison if anyone ever wanted to try it. I've done it. Just install Debian and see what you get out of the box versus Mint. And I think that shows you the amount of effort that they actually put into delivering that experience, that first impression.
Very much.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. But you're right. I should probably do that.
Well, I don't mean you specifically. I'm just saying there's an absolute,
yeah.
level of effort there. So,
see, to me, can I interject something here? You mentioned about the kernel and your hardware and stuff, and I think there's some. That would probably be, if there was going to be a bit of concern to me, would be the one thing that could be, because here you've got a lot of the newer distros now going 64-bit or leaning toward newer hardware, and here you've got a distro much like Mint, basically it's the same thing, just a different cover on it, and running that older kernel. That's one of the reasons why the one little glitch I've gotten here, I mentioned when I went to 5.3, my suspend doesn't work very well. I can't go back to, and I've mentioned that in the past, I can't go back to a more stable kernel, or what they call it, back to 4.19 or whatever, because of the hardware I have. And I think that could be problematic when you're trying to put it on somebody's machine. Let's say they have a newer machine, and like you found out, maybe that's what's causing the issue. I would tend to believe that too. That can be a problem. So I don't know if they're doing it just for stability, but then maybe when it's being downloaded, or there should be some kind of notification on the hardware that it would be optimized for, so you don't download it and then go through all the time and then find out it's not going to work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Joe, there's some issues with, not particularly with workstations, but if you get into server markets where you have to certify your systems, like in HIPAA or for security environments for the government, if you change a Unix kernel, you start over. You have to recertify. And so there are some advantages from keeping on the same kernel. Now, security updates are still coming, but yeah, you're right. Your device drivers are not going to be up to date, right?
Yeah, because if we're trying to use it on a desktop, I think that's going to be the problem. Sorry.
I don't think anybody's using Linux Mint Debian for a server, though. Debian for sure, but not Mint.
There isn't a server version for it.
Well, there's DJ makes a very, very good point, but there is a solution to that. Is on the desktop, you push the newer LTS kernel, and you keep until you're ready to push a newer LTS kernel on the server. Is you just keep the server the 4.19, because Debian is going to have as they keep the 4.19 kernel, as the hardware keeps going forward, it's just not going to work with newer hardware when people are trying to install on a desktop. I know on my newer computer right now, that 4.19 kernel will not work at all.
And that's the point here, is that if you got people that are going to be trying this on a desktop, there needs to be something there to stand out more or less in their face, to let them know that if you have newer hardware, this is good. Like usually it's pre-2017 hardware, I think is kind of the earmark.
Yeah, but you say that, but then, sorry, I'm running this on my Threadripper with a RTX 2080 Ti, and it installed flawlessly. It's working perfectly. I'm on the 4.19 kernel, 0 issues. So to say that you're going to have problems, it's only certain types of the latest and greatest, maybe that's come out in the last year, that you're going to have problems with. And that's because AMD are really pushing the envelope.
Well, and that's fair enough. So maybe just, a potential notification. Know if you have something to just give a little heads up that if you have a problem, it could, that's all, as I'm saying.
I would just like to point out that part of that is because
stopping Linux Mint from just switching out the kernel themselves. So
yeah, Zeb, part of that is
I
because
wouldn't do it if I was them.
The drivers for your card are shipped separately from the kernel, so you don't have to worry about it as much as people with AMD.
No, absolutely. But then again, Aris had problems because he expected an older driver, and that was something I was going to pick up on after we'd finished with everybody. I'll pick it up now. There was a time where Linux was so far behind on the Linux drivers that you had the NVIDIA drivers that you had to go and work out yourself how to get it all installed. But now I think they've gone the opposite way. They've put too much of a push to get the latest and greatest, and they've forgotten a huge Linux base, which is people who don't have the latest and greatest and just want the good old-fashioned solid, it works, NVIDIA driver. And then for some reason, what you guys, I think you've got to remember, and I often forget it, is we can say something very simply in 5 words. It then takes a programmer 5 to 6 months to get that to work when you're doing something. So we've just got to remember that yes, we want this, and yes, we want that, and we'd like this, that, and the other. And then there's some poor chap slaving away in the background trying to do what you just asked for in 5 words. So yeah, very, very.
And that's why I said I think, the old adage that, Linux is great for older machines is kind of getting further and further from the truth. I mean, there are still good distros out there for it, but I think as it's evolving here, it's moving away from that,
Sure.
So
that's good.
They should just fix that.
Thank you. 5 words. Okay, DJ Ware. So can we have your impressions?
Sure.
If you've got anything else to give us?
Sure. So first of all, I was going to say a couple things. So it is important that you do not change kernel versions in a security environment, because there are workstations installed in those environments as well, and they are Linux. It's not just servers that go into those environments, because you do not have connections to the outside world. But so I went through the LMDE install on a NUC 10. The secure boot worked fine. It's the latest Intel secure boot BIOS. So that worked fine. Got up to the install. We started to get to the enabling of the Linux network driver for the Ethernet, and it failed. So there's no driver there for the Ethernet driver, but it did install. I just won't be able to update it. So I went back and did it on a VM. I did some comparison between Linux Mint and LMDE, because allegedly Cinnamon runs faster, and I did find that to be true, that the LMDE version of Cinnamon is slightly faster than the Linux Mint. Now, I don't.
Is there a reason for that, DJ?
Apparently that they're trying. I guess they're because of the work that the folks with LMDE have done. They have done some optimization with Cinnamon on that platform, as the best I can tell. I did some playing around. There's an ability with LMDE to encrypt, of course, whole disk encryption, like most Linux distros do. But you also have the option to do home directory encryption as well, or instead of. And that uses eCrypt file system, which is pretty good. And it worked fine. Didn't have any problems with it at all. So I had 2 problems. One was with GUFW. It kept crashing on me, but it didn't seem to impact the firewall rules that it puts into IB tables. It just wasn't stable. And then the other thing is that on the optional install, where it puts up the notification that you have some more work to do to complete your installation, I wish that there was a way to turn Adobe Flash codecs off. I don't use Adobe Flash. I don't allow it on my systems, but you don't have any options to do that. I think it had I ran Linus, which is a tool that I use to determine hardening on the system, and it had the lowest score of any of the systems that I've tested so far. So it would require significant work to harden the system. For those of you that are interested in that. So it's a little bit more. Usually I get a 66 on most workstation distributions. This one was a 60. So,
okay.
But as far as the packages and so forth, I mean, Debian, I have a DNS server behind me here that it hasn't been rebooted in 3 years up until 2 days ago. So, I mean, it just runs, it just works. So yeah, that's all I got to say.
Excellent.
I've got a comment about why the Cinnamon might be a little bit better. Is because Linux Mint Debian Edition runs a newer version of Cinnamon than the standard one, because that one's on a rolling repository, whereas Cinnamon isn't.
Oh, okay. That's almost like in reverse of what it should be, but yeah, weird. Mr. Jones, good evening, sir.
Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, not so bad. Yourself?
Oh, good. I got to try LMDE this week, and I was pretty happy with it. It's it's standard Debian, same as what it always is. It's pretty much it's rock solid. It was the first time that I had tried it since LMDE 3 when that first came out, and back then I had a problem. I had newer hardware at that time, and it wouldn't work with my NVMe drive. But this time, everything worked great, and I'm going to give some love to Debian because it got me feeling the itch to use it again, and I installed Debian testing on my computer now that I'm using.
Excellent.
Nice.
Very cool. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm
go
sorry. I
ahead.
just wanted to add, and one of the reasons why I did it was because of the kernel jump. I got to go, with Debian testing, it went up to 5.4.04, so that was good.
All right, thanks. Steve, how are you this evening?
Hello.
Hello. What do you think of LMDE?
I didn't use it much more this week, but two things that I missed last week when I was talking about it. Blazing fast to install. I swear it was about 5 minutes. But also on my testing laptop, the installer, even though I manually put it in there first, did not add the flag for the boot, and I had to go put it in, boot back into the live version of that. Otherwise, actually, I kicked my son out of the office here today so I can be on my regular computer, and he likes to listen to he'll be on his laptop while he's listening to music off of YouTube on my desktop. So I set up the testing laptop with Linux with Debian. I don't really hear him using it, so he might not, but he likes to have two computers with him. So I'll see what he has to say later.
All right. Well, thanks, Steve. Simon, good to see you back.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah. What do you think of LMD?
I mean, it just works. It's stable as a rock, and it works Linux Mint how you'd expect it to work. I have installed it on actual hardware in the past for a family member, and that was a fantastic experience, and he loves it, and I would install it on other family members' computers if they were interested in Linux. I would install it on any machines that I purchased that were maybe slightly older. The only thing I noticed this week is when I booted it up in my virtual machine on Tuesday, I ran an update, and the Spotify update actually broke. The GPG key had expired. So I did a quick Google search on how to fix that, which took me straight to the Linux Mint forums, which are really good, by the way. And a couple of commands in the terminal, and I was back up and running. Relatively easy fix, and all was well again.
Well, thank you, Simon. Chris, I see you're trying to take a nap on us. Do you have any experience this week with Linux Mint?
I wasn't taking a nap. I was trying to read the internal chat there. No, seeing how I missed last week, and I threw it up on the machine for this week, I was really happy with the fact that I decided not to recreate the home partition and just leave it there, because I had some files from the Arco that I didn't want to lose, and it worked great. I was able to have my home directory still there with under the new operating or the new distro. That worked out really well. The thing that I have a problem with that seems to I think it's a XOR problem is the for some reason it takes about 30 seconds to start actually booting into the Windows Manager, and then once it's in the Windows Manager, I have to wait about a minute and a half before I can type anything into the password field. And this also happened. I don't know if it's the greeter or what. It's not just Debian or sorry, I'm still in the habit of calling it Debian or Mint. That's the problem. It's whatever is they're asking for facility from Xorg. I've noticed that some of the Ubuntu's don't have that problem on my laptop, and other machines do. I think part of it is I have a laptop that is kind of on its last legs. I've been nursing along, and I haven't figured out exactly what's going wrong with the BIOS on it. I think that's part of the problem, but I don't know why certain distributions don't seem to have a problem and other distributions seem to have a problem with it. Other than that, I'm ditto everybody else as far as how it's working and stuff like that. As far as switching over to it, probably not. I'm was enjoying myself much more in Arco. So if I ever had to give up Fedora for whatever reason, I'd probably move over to Arco. But,
Well, thank you, Chris. That's most appreciated. And so now that moves us to Mr. Grubbs. So, Adam, did you use anything other than a Windows or Mac this week?
No.
I'm
with you in spirit.
That's the honest truth, too.
Yeah.
That's what we expect from Adam, is always honesty.
Well, we still love you, brother.
And an orange cat.
Right.
That eats pizza.
Sorry. Yeah, a pizza cat. No, he's not here right now.
You had one job and you didn't bring the cat. Come on.
Well, the cat has its own legs, so
and its own mind. So
yeah, you just strap it down. It's good.
I should strap it with love.
That's what I do.
All right, moving on. TechMev, how are you, sir? TechMev.
I'm here. Sorry.
That's all good. How are you?
Had the wrong trackpad in my hand. Doing all right. In terms of LMDE, I think it's not trying to sound disparaging to it. I think it's Windows 98 SE versus 98. I mean, it's polished to something that's venerable and keeps it going.
Hey, that's your honest opinion, brother. It's all good. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Esnix, sir, good evening.
Howdy, people. Good evening. So thank you, Rocco. Let's see. I reported on my initial experience last week, but the one update I have is one of my viewers in the comment on my LMDE 4 install video brought up an issue with the auto partitioner not functioning properly. Has anyone else had that experience? Has anyone else used the auto partitioner?
I had some issues with that as well.
I did.
Yeah.
well,
I used the auto, had no problems at all.
what type of problems were popping up?
Except with the flag.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's typical. I think it's Calamari that's doing that. But usually, if I go in and redo the partitions through fdisk or gdisk, and set the boot flag for the boot partition, it doesn't have an issue.
Yeah, my viewer wasn't that specific on exactly what went wrong with the partitioner. It turns out the drive he was trying to install to was an external drive, and for some reason it wasn't set writable. So that was a different problem. But I never use auto partitioning, or hardly ever, so I rarely would see that kind of bug.
Right.
So,
I rarely use it too, but I mean, I've noticed that, you get through installing, it does a reboot, and then it says no boot device is found, and then you just go back into the live live option, go into fdisk and reset that flag, and everything is hunky dory.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily have a problem on actual hardware. I actually had a problem with a VM with that. I would just suggest report it to Linux Mint because they maintain their own installer for LMDE. So if it's a bug that is in the installer, that's something that they'd be able to fix, and they're normally pretty good about that.
Now, I don't remember using LMDE 3. Does anyone remember whether that installer had an auto partitioning feature or not?
Yes, it did, but it was a different installer altogether for LMDE 3. This was a new installer.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have nothing else to report, really. I used it for about a week on my spare laptop. The EFI install went perfectly fine, and the updates went fine. So nothing I wouldn't expect out of any Debian-based system. So
got it. Okay. Chicken, you went last week. Did you have any follow-up thoughts this week?
No, it's good.
Okay. And Tony, I think you probably know a few things about Mint, if I'm not mistaken.
I've already
and you did yet last week, and I just wanted to give you a chance if there was any new insight you wanted to add.
No, I just
already did. Yeah,
I already did. I got
I'm sorry.
crashed.
I'm sorry.
I got
apologize.
crashed out of Zoom, and it put me at the end of the queue again.
Okay, I apologize. I stepped away.
That's
my
okay.
fault. Okay.
Oh, don't tell Michael that. He'll get 2 chances at it.
Well, and funny enough, you say that because actually he had something else to add. So, Michael, you said someone else had a.
Yeah, Mitchell, I think it was.
Shouldn't we make him?
Mitchell.
Shouldn't we make him come back?
Yeah, I could just kick him out.
Well, if you're going to be like that.
Oh.
I'm kidding.
I'm sorry. Okay, yes, it was Mitchell. I read that wrong.
Wow, rude. What?
No, Mitchell said he had a follow-up.
Oh yeah. Well, this is actually a bit different. But in terms of the installation, it's worth mentioning that the swap partition automatically defaults to the amount of RAM that's installed. So if you have a lot of memory installed, you may want to shrink the size of the swap partition. I installed on a rack server, and it gave me 144 gigabyte swap partition, which I don't really need.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's a standard thing for, just Linux installing. But for a server, you don't want that at all.
Yeah,
but for a desktop, it is standard to do the whatever your RAM is.
You don't hibernate your server?
No.
I mean, I have a
Love it.
16
That's a good
gigabyte
one.
system. I don't even use a swap. I just cut that out.
Swap is necessary for a lot of reasons.
Not a good idea. Yeah.
Yep,
Swap
you need
is
swap.
really actually necessary, especially if you have a low RAM system. Like I have a laptop with 4 gigabytes of RAM. I need swap.
No,
But even if you.
Yep,
Yeah,
go ahead,
go
Zeb.
on, Eric. No, go on, my friend.
No, I was going to say some programs, the way some of the memory usage is factored, they expect swap to be there, even if it's a little bit. So you
I've got 64 gigs on my desktop, and I still keep at least a 1 gig swap
Yeah,
partition.
I've heard too many stories of people who say, "Oh, I've got 16 gig of memory, I don't need it," and they open up a couple of VMs, open up a couple of browser, and before they know it, their system is grinding to a halt. Even if you only give it a 1 gigabyte section, or even a 512 megabyte section, it just allows it to work the way the developers wanted it to work. So everybody says, "I don't need swap," and I turn it off. You're gonna regret that decision one day.
And actually, there is a way that you can not have swap, and you can disable that usage. But I do not suggest using it in case you do end up needing to use it in case of a low memory situation, or if you have a laptop. It's a good idea to have swap anyway. That way you can use hibernate or hybrid suspend.
I like the way that the Calamari's installer for Manjaro does it. If you want a swap file, it's 2 gigs. If you want one with hibernate, then it will factor in the amount of RAM you have. I think that's really smart.
They should actually specify it's a swap file, because that in the installer they don't specify
Instead of
it's a swap
right.
file.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, they should absolutely do that, because swap files are awesome, and you should have it. And you skip the partition, just do a swap file.
Yeah.
Can I tell you
That's what I do.
a,
I'm sorry, I
back in my
didn't
day?
actually clarify that, but no, I don't set aside a partition. I just do a swap file on my hard drive.
Joe B, you wanted to get in on that?
Oh no, it was mentioned. Hibernate and needing a swap file.
Okay. All right. Does
I do
anybody
actually
have any? Oh, go ahead.
The funny thing is that you said that you read it wrong, Eric. You didn't. I actually did say that. That I did want
Okay,
to follow
I
up.
wasn't sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually want to follow up because I remembered something that was pretty, apt to this conversation, in that I gave my brother Linux Mint Debian edition years ago, and he's been. And like the main thing was because someone mentioned that you could give it to people who don't want to have a lot of updates and don't want to deal with stuff, and I did do that mainly because I didn't want to have to deal with the updates or do that stuff. He didn't care, but I didn't want to do it, so I used Debian edition to have that massive long support cycle. And I went to upgrade from I gave it to him originally was LMDE 2. Then I gave him upgrade to 3. And I went to update to 4 this week. And that did not happen. Not because of anything wrong with LMDE, but because there was a bad sector on the hard drive and it's broken. So,
oops.
So LMDE lasted for like 7 to 8 years. So there's a good thing for that.
Hopefully Michael Tennell's brother had his brother make a backup for him, right?
No.
Okay, good. That's great. Fantastic.
No, I'm not. I told him, hey, here's how to do a backup. I'm not going to come here every week and make a backup for you. And he's like, okay, fine. And then when it happened, I was like, hey, do you have backup? He's like, no, I just chose not to store anything on there. Like, okay, that works too.
Didn't you have your NAS storage on your shelf for a month?
How dare you? It's 3 months.
Can I tell a back in my day story real quick here about swap files and page files?
Chris, do it.
Okay, back this is when I was going to the University of Buffalo, and this was back in about 1986. We had a VAX 11785, so we had probably about we were screaming with 4 megs of memory on that computer. But the thing is, when they updated the VMS 3.2, every 5 hours, the system would just lock up. And found out what was happening was that the swap process would see that the process was taking a lot of the memory up, so it would swap it out to the swap file. And so now there's nothing to swap it back in, and it would just sit there and lock up, and they'd have to reboot the VAX. And it took them about a week to figure that out. It was rather humorous when we found out what the problem was.
Nice. All right. Anybody want to add anything to the end for Linux Mint Debian?
I wanted to talk about the installer. I forgot to mention that I like how the installer has the same thing as MX, where it gives you gparty to work on the partitions. Usually installers are very limited, and gparty has a lot of features you can use if you want to. So I did like that about the Linux Mint Debian Edition installer.
Very nice. Anybody else?
All good here.
All right. That's going to wrap up our opinions and our thoughts on Linux Mint Debian Edition. I would like to thank all of the guys in the Linux Mint team that work on the Debian Edition for all of their hard work and efforts, because some of us might say that Linux Mint Debian is boring, but that is a great thing, and that is a good thing for a lot of use cases. So I am so glad to have that as a choice for people to use. So very much appreciated. And that's going to wrap it up for that. So we have to pick a new distro. And well, okay, so here's the thing. Normally I would, say, hey, what do you guys want to choose? Or we used to do the random thing. But we got an email this week from one of the people that come into our YouTube chat, and I don't know how much information that they want to release, so I'm not going to say their name or anything, but they asked us to try out Q4OS. Now, Q4OS is something that I have never tried. it's been on our distro watch or distro choice list for a very long time. And I normally don't automatically, when one single person asks, hey, can you try this? Hey, we're going to try it. But this is a specific case for a group of people. And like I said, I don't want to give out any more information than I need to because I'm not sure how sensitive that is. So there's a group of people that would like us to test out Q4OS. And I think it would be a good thing for us as a community to help them out and review Q4OS so that they don't have to, basically. So,
yeah, I'm down with that. It's good.
That's another Debian based, right?
Yes, it's another Debian.
Yeah, it is a Debian based, and it comes with 2 desktops. You can either go for the really old fashioned Trinity, which I think is based on KDE 3, or I think during the install, if I remember, I tried it about 9 months ago, I guess, and I'm pretty
Plasma
sure
5.
that now, during the install, they give you the option to go KDE Plasma. So that should be
Yeah,
that should make
one of the
Michael very happy.
downloads. One of the downloads is actually Plasma.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
so
only
they've
options
got-
they offer are those two: Plasma and Trinity.
Right.
Yeah.
And they also do things like an installer for Windows to do alongside like Ubuntu used to do. Specific hardwares, Raspberry Pi, Pinebook. So they have the ARM port. And so they are focused on the Plasma and KDE desktops, but they are
good decision
trying to support a lot of different hardware, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the deal. Normally, in this situation, we're going to talk in a few minutes about the Ubuntu testing week. And normally you would think, well, we might try, Ubuntu's, or maybe we even have a free week so that people can do what they want to. But looking ahead at the weeks coming up, I kind of looked at when 2004 is going to release and, trying to schedule basically, because we are going to try them as soon as it releases. So with this will leave us 2 weeks to try Q4OS. And then the following week will be an empty week, which where we won't test anything, because I'm sure people on that Saturday will want to talk about 2004, when it releases. So then that Saturday after 2004 releases, we will start with the Ubuntu's, Ubuntu GNOME, the Ubuntu regular edition for that week, and we'll go 1 week for each version of the Ubuntu flavors. So that's the thought process behind it. So there you go.
And that makes perfect sense to me. And that gives us kind of that week, like you said, to maybe test or do other things. So just back to Q4S for 1 second. So in February, they did an announcement where they're talking about 4.0 Gemini, and they're saying it's testing. So I'm not sure that it's actually what people will want to use. But I noticed that at the bottom, they have a paragraph that says variety of hardware devices are supported, designed to drive the most modern laptops and desktops, as well as older computers. Comes with exclusive utilities and features, especially with the desktop profiler tool for profiling your computer into different professional working tools. Setup utility for the smooth installation of third-party applications, welcome screen with several integrated shortcuts. And then in the last sentence, they say, XFC, LXQT, Cinnamon, and LXD alternative desktop environments options, and many more. So it does look like maybe there are other options there as well.
Yeah, that's after you've installed. And just to give people a heads up, one thing I do remember about it is it goes for the install, and very good it is too. And then you get to that desktop profiler thing. And if you then choose the full-fledged desktop, prepare to sit there for 15 to 20 minutes while it does that. So you think, oh, this was a really good install. And then you get to the desktop profiler thing, and that takes another, because it literally throws everything in the kitchen sink at it. Once you're then inside the application, there's a little tool and you can pick various bits and pieces. But we can talk all about that when we come to review it and as people find the little gems, because it is a marvelous little distro.
How spoiled have we become that 15 minutes is an outrageous install?
Yeah.
You are right,
crazy,
Dave.
isn't it?
You are right.
The last time I installed Windows, it was like 3 hours. So, I mean,
But that explains why the, when you download it, it's only like 800 meg.
Yep.
I was wondering, I thought that's awfully small. There's something, and then I figured that it's like getting stuff once it's the installation starts.
Well, I hope to try both of them because, I love Plasma, but I used to love Plasma 3.5 as well. So that will be like going down memory lane there to try that. So,
but be careful, Rocco, because I also think it's going to be your worst nightmare. Because on that KDE side of it, they have about 8 or 9 different types of desktop in variations of it. So you're going to find it. See pixels out, go to the next one. See pixels out, go to the next one.
Maybe, but that's why we review
Groundhog
it.
Day. Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah. But it's a wonderful little distro for all these little quirky things that other people are now catching up on, that these guys were doing 3-4 years ago.
So here's the deal. If you would like to try Q4OS, it is q4os.org, and the link is in the YouTube chat. You can join us on Telegram and talk about it. If you have any problems installing it, jump in and say, hey, I got this problem, and I'm sure there'll be people to help you out. If you decide that you don't want to try Q4OS, that's fine. You're still welcome on Biddle next week. If you just want to do some various testing, because we are in Ubuntu testing week, that is also a good thing. So that is actually our next subject. And I know that we announced it last week with Rick Timmis and Alan Pope was here, and we talked about it. But this is the actual, it has released. So, Bill, the beta was held up for a day or two, I think, because of issues, but it is now out.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a hiccup, and the beta did get a day release, but it is out now. One of the things I did want to mention, so one of the Ubuntu team, Joseph Phillips, kind of took a role in getting the flavors to come together for what's on the Ubuntu release schedule as the beta testing week. So he got everybody, did a lot of work to get everybody into a Telegram group, to get some Twitter stuff going on IRC, to get more exposure to all of the flavors, because a lot of people will pick and choose what they like and maybe just use that one. And this is this idea that if we can get everybody, maybe you don't have the time to do all of them, but maybe just use try a different one and use that Z-Sync tool, which makes it really easy to, once you've downloaded one ISO, to
Bill, what Z-Sync tool are we talking about here? I don't understand.
So there's someone in this channel named Eric Adams who makes YouTube videos. And back during the 1910 release, he made a YouTube video about using Z-Sync for testing Ubuntu. And this tool is really excellent. So in about 3 minutes, Eric has a video. And what you do is you download from the QA ISO site your ISO. It can be Ubuntu, Ubuntu Mate, Ubuntu, whatever one you'd like. Once you have that, 2 gig file, what you can do is you can get the Z-Sync link, and what it does is it will update the changes. So you have Ubuntu and you want to use Ubuntu. You grab the Ubuntu link, it looks what you have downloaded and downloads the differences, and then you have the Ubuntu ISO. And you can keep doing that. It makes what you have to download a lot less. And it's just really nice to give back to a lot of people who, just to be honest, the Ubuntu Studio guys don't get that much publicity, and they do a heck of a job. Eric is doing such good stuff there. So if, everybody's going to test out Ubuntu, but let's look at Ubuntu Studio for just a minute. And we have Dan Simmons in here who does so much work for Ubuntu. Let's not forget those guys. Let's, work on everybody. And everybody benefits when you look at the different flavors.
Dan, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'll say that the Telegram group that Bill was talking about, that there's been a lot of activity in there, and it's been really great. I've seen some things get reported through there, and it's just general discussion to kind of find out, whether your issue is an actual bug or if there's another way,
you can do what you're trying to do, and it's not a bug, and it's just, this is the way you have to do it, that sort of thing. So you can have some discussion about your testing before you go file the bug to, kind of do some verification there. So that's been really helpful. At least I've found it helpful, as somebody that's, doing some development and whatnot. And, but I mean, you can always join, whatever channel, communication channel that the particular flavor has too, and chat about those things as well. I know just about everybody has some sort of live chat, something or other that you can discuss that with. And then, there's forums too that you can kind of look and get a feel of what's going on. So, but that's been really helpful as far as the testing. And I think, this is going to be an LTS release. So it'll be around for a while for everybody. So we really kind of want to get it right.
Yep.
As a follow-up for the Ubuntu Studio guys and how much work they do, they've actually arranged so that from other flavors of Ubuntu, you can install the various packs, the multimedia pack, the audio pack, the video pack, the different options that they offer in their own distro. They've created packs that you can download from the repos and install on any of the other flavors. Those guys have done amazing work. And for years, anytime I went to Ubuntu, it was always Ubuntu Studio. I have always loved that, and I will always love that flavor.
Yep. Yeah, Dave's talking about the Ubuntu Studio installer, which you can download, and it actually lets you choose which thing you want to install. So you can do some, all, or whatever your choice is there, and you can load that on any flavor, which is really neat.
I think you'll find that when Eric joined the team over there, he brought in a lot of those changes, and that was one of the ones that he wanted for people to have those packages available in all other flavors of Ubuntu. So kudos to Eric for that one.
Yeah, you used to have to install like a PPA and pick the one you wanted, and this does all that for you. You don't even have to mess around with any of that. It just click, 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 and away you go.
Now, Dan, did they actually fix that feature? Because in 1910, when we went and tested it, that feature was broken where if you unchecked it, it uninstalled a bunch of stuff on it.
It worked just fine for me in Ubuntu 1910.
No, I was talking about Studio.
Yeah, that feature worked fine if you were using an Ubuntu Mate and decided to install it. It worked perfectly fine on 1910.
Okay.
Yep.
I was talking about from if you downloaded the ISO and unchecked them, it would uninstall a bunch of meta packages.
I think they did fix that. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And
it's a good thing to test.
One of the things Dan was mentioning about Eric in that Telegram channel, he is in that channel a fair bit. So this gives you as a person maybe a chance to actually connect directly to a developer of a distribution you may or may not know that much about. And there's a bunch of the guys are in there. So it also, there's the idea that Rocco's mentioned it to me that sometimes filing a bug is not the most straightforward process. So you come to the ISO test site and it has this test case. And it can be really confusing the first time you do it. And here's a chance to jump in and go, I'm doing this, but I'm a little confused. Can I get some help? And there's a bunch of people in there all over the world. So it's pretty much 24/7 that they can, point you in the right direction.
Absolutely. And I'll also follow up with that too, and say that Popey's done some pretty great videos on that. And he's done some pretty great ones on bug reporting as well. So definitely give those a check out.
I'd also like to mention that Studio has the low latency kernel, which is a really nice touch.
Thanks, Mitchell.
You didn't do that, Mitchell. You didn't do that, did you?
Thomas is going to go off on one there.
I got to mute Thomas real quick. Hold on. Let me find him in the list here.
I'll do it. Single click and low latency kernel for the win.
I have to see what they have done in Studio for. So one of the things that's caused me particularly an issue with 2004 is the removal of Qt4. Qt4. I say Qt because I think saying Qt is silly, but there are some tools that I use, particularly around audio, that are still based on Qt4, and now they just don't work anymore. So I'm curious to see what they've done, if any, because some of those tools are included in Ubuntu Studio. So I don't know. I have to get it and test it and see what they've done.
They did port some of those over, Eric, so it is worth a check. I know they worked hard on that. Actually, they struggled with the same thing, and you know, some of them I think some of the plugins were problematic, but it's worth a check to see if, you know, if everything
Okay.
made it over.
I think I'll Z-Sync the image.
There you go.
That would be great.
Seriously though, I know we've mentioned it in the last couple shows, if you're testing, like, so all the technical side of it apart, you've already got the ISO. The only thing that's changed since the last time you downloaded is probably 10 or 15, maybe 20% of it. So instead of downloading 2 gigs, you download 200 megabytes.
Yep.
And it takes, you know, 30 seconds, and now you've got the up-to-date image. And it's like, once I figured out that that's how that worked, I was like, I'm an idiot. I've been doing this the hardest way possible. So
Eric,
no, it's really great. And we talked about Ubuntu Studio, and Eric Eichmeyer actually wrote a script that, you know, he downloads all of them, all the ISOs, and so his script just, you know, updates them all. And probably has a cron job to run it. So that whenever he goes to run the ISO, there it is. It's the latest one right there on his machine. So it's pretty cool.
Just one little caveat to that, though, if I may. It's all well and good having this great tool that saves you megabytes and megabytes. But what I found in my testing is I'll download the daily ISO and it installs fantastically. So I use eSync and I get the next thing and it's all working perfectly. But then I go and download the next daily ISO and the installs as broken. So it is still very important that you test the full daily ISO as well, if you've got the opportunity, because there might have been a little regression slip in. So here you are going one ISO, downloaded it, update. That isn't the whole thing behind it. So if you've got the bandwidth and you've got the speed, please check out the full ISOs as well, because they can change.
Yep.
Joe?
And I will say another plug for Z-Sync though. It does verify your download when it gets down. So that saves you, I mean, because a lot of install problems that happen that we see reported are because the image got corrupted somewhere along the way. So this verifies that for you, and that's kind of an important piece. So I see Joe's got his hand up. So
yeah, I wanted to comment about something that if people hadn't seen Alan's video, and we talked about this a little bit in Eric's stream the other night, that there was a question asked of him on his video in the comments about, do I have to do a fresh install of the LTS beta release, or can I just update? And he said you could do both, but his recommendation was to do a fresh install. And the reason being is because this way you can get a true sense of the installer itself from scratch and make sure there's no hiccups going through the process.
Well, the beta and the daily are not the same thing.
Pardon me?
The beta and the daily are not the same thing.
I know, but I believe that was the question, though.
Okay.
Was from,
so if he was running the daily and updated, right, Dan? I mean, he's not going to get.
Actually, if he's running the daily of 2004 and he updated, he would get. Eventually, you'd land on 2004 and you wouldn't even know. But you could do the same thing either way, with the beta or the daily. It doesn't matter. Either one will end up there.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, in a way,
I think he's talking about referring to the beta.
I misunderstood what you said. The difference between testing the daily versus testing the beta. I didn't mean.
Right. Yeah, because he'd rather. I think they'd rather see people do a fresh install from scratch, so you could go through the whole process. Versus, jumping from one to the other and possibly missing something is all it was. Although he did say you could do both.
Yeah, and so part of doing the testing, we're hopeful, is people are testing the install process, and if you're just updating, then you're not going to get the the latest little bits in that. So that's kind of one of the things we're looking for.
Well, and that works to my point too. I made when I was, and I haven't done anything with it today, but I'd mentioned I downloaded it as soon as I saw it come out, and I went to do a live run of this with the USB on my little cube workstation in the back, and I got a video flicker out of it really bad. I could see it doing its thing in the background every time it flashed. But so I don't know again if that was just a coincidence, maybe with the flash drive. Or so I'm going to try a few things first before I look into potentially filing a bug, because I don't want to file a bug that's not really necessary or have them waste time on it. But it was something I've never experienced before. So and that's part of too, because you got to put the USB in initially to get to the screen anyway to even go to an installer. So
yep.
And that also goes to prove why this testing is so important for the Ubuntu team, because you're talking about you've got this little nut box, someone else has got a 1922 laptop, someone else has got a 2018 laptop, someone else has got the latest and greatest, and then someone else has hired something together. It's impossible for even a company as large as Ubuntu to have every single piece of hardware. So if you can help them find that little quirk, and there's enough of you, then I'm sure they'll go ahead and try and fix it.
And something to
I'm sorry, I was going to say real quick, that was an Intel integrated graphics on that little workstation I have back there. I'm on my AMD now with my dedicated card. So, it could very well be an Intel thing too. We don't know.
Sorry, I was just going to say, so some of us have been talking about test cases, and that's kind of a QA thing. Like, people may not even understand what that means. So I was just going to throw a link in so that you could see like what is involved with it in case anyone. So Dan says we want people to be testing the install. A lot of the test cases actually revolve around, and a test case is essentially just a series of steps you follow. So it's like, get the ISO, burn it to a something, and then boot your computer. Did it boot? And it's literally step by step down through the processes. And it can be a little dry, I guess. But the point is that it's a repeated process that you run, that hopefully someone is doing with each successive release. And then you're making sure, like, if you test that, then it's not breaking between tests. And it's not something that's done continuously, but certainly now when this stuff is being done. So that's kind of what Dan's talking about. And when we say test case, it's a regimented testing. Zeb can tell you all about QA testing. So
yeah, and if you want a visual on that, Alan Pope has done some marvelous little videos as he himself walks through these test cases live, so you can see how easy it is to do. So don't be daunted by it. Oh God, they've got a test script. It's, as Eric said, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, tick, done.
Yep. And I'll say, the release managers and, the whole Ubuntu team, they look at all those test cases and they really pay attention to it and make sure there's no things that are stand out and are release stoppers and stuff like that. So it gets some attention on the backside too for people that are receiving those reports.
So if the release managers are watching, then that means we can make sure that Simon fixes Pulse.
Actually, all the product managers, if you will, that's what they call them, as product managers, is so there's usually a couple from each team, and yeah, you could slide him some notes there probably.
I miss Simon. He doesn't come on anymore.
I know.
He's busy. He's got too many things going on.
It couldn't be that we just bash him to death about Pulse Audio.
It could be, Joe. It could be, but
one of the things Zeb mentioned is the size of the teams. So he did mention that Canonical and Ubuntu have larger teams, but they can't test everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the flavors have very, very small teams, and this process is that it's going on this flavor testing week is an organic process that's not really something that Canonical and Ubuntu did. This was a community from the Ubuntu team that started this, and you're helping the little teams. So Dan can tell you how small his team is. His team is pretty active and has a fair number of people. So you're helping everybody. You're helping Kubuntu. You're helping Ubuntu Mate, Ubuntu, Ubuntu Studio. Who am I missing? Ubuntu Budgie, Ubuntu. You're helping all of them. And the other thing you're doing in this process is, yes, you're helping Ubuntu. You're also helping Mint. You're helping Elementary. You're helping Pop OS and anybody else that bases off of the Ubuntu bases. So don't think of it as just helping Canonical, this big company. They don't need it. everyone that uses this needs it, and it's a great way to give back.
Yep, totally agree. Anything else on the Ubuntu testing front?
Yeah, and also every distro that uses Ubuntu as their base also needs it. So you're helping Mint, you're helping Elementary, you're helping everyone who uses it as a base.
I knew there was an echo in the room.
Did you just copy me, Michael?
I think he did.
No, I added to you. I didn't copy it.
Oh, can I say
that was a tag team effort.
Can I mention one thing, and then you can mute me? So while all this is going on, there's a distribution. It's an official flavor that may have just rebooted their entire website. So you might want to just go there and go to the Ubuntu Mate website and look at it and test it out and see all this pretty stuff.
Where's the link at, Bill? Where's the link at?
I'll put that in there.
Okay.
One more thing about the testing is if for some reason you do decide to run it on your main computer, you do not have to wipe it out when it goes mainline. It will update to the mainline of repositories when they release that. So it will automatically upgrade from the testing to mainline, and with absolutely no input from you as soon as you run your updates on, what is it, the 22nd?
23rd? 23rd.
I think it's 23rd.
Yeah, okay. I was almost right.
But I would ask, so yes, that is entirely possible to get a running system from running the daily or the beta or whatever you're going to run, and it will update. But does anybody, I mean, I don't know, does anybody trust that? Would anybody do that for their machine, or would they just reinstall?
Yeah.
I've done that since November.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have a working system, that nothing's going to fundamentally change between one day before and one day after. I mean, what's that?
So
we hope.
There is
Right.
there is the potential, Eric, that you could wind up with a very broken system that if you're not, it wouldn't matter for somebody else that's not as technically competent would have a lot of issues and may bring them to tears.
Or somebody like Rocco, because a pixel may be off here and there.
Right? I haven't.
Which
I mean,
will also
maybe
induce tears.
Well, that he hasn't broken anything in a while, so you do.
It's true.
I can't say that.
We'll get that into a minute, but just one other little thing as well. Just be wary of this upgrade process, because I think I'm right in saying that, guys, that Ubuntu 18.04 won't automatically update until 20.04.1 comes out. So they leave that first 3 months for all of because as good as everybody is and as much testing as we do, it will release on day one and someone will come along and go, oh, did you know this is broken? And we're like, oh, okay, missed that.
Well, in 18.04 will still continue to be supported for quite a while, so there's no reason to rush to it.
So the flavors are supported for 3 years, but the Ubuntu base, like server and everything else, they're good for 5 or 10 years with ESM support. So it'll be around for a long time. Yes.
Yeah. And you mentioned server. Yeah. I mean, you won't see 20.04 servers probably for a while.
Right.
Because the companies have to kind of get their own standards in place and stuff like that,
Yep. So going back to, you were talking about updating, there can be things that break. I've had a couple of things, along the way. Sometimes things break, but we try very hard not to make that happen, obviously. But, sometimes it's a bit unavoidable, I guess, or things happen and you just don't know. You don't anticipate it, I guess. And so there can be a ripple effect there. So you got to be a little careful. But as long as you're a little careful, you're probably okay.
In the future, in the world of ZFS, I think we will probably have less fear of that happening.
Yep.
So I have a little update to that. So there was a live stream that somebody who is the desktop head of was doing today. And he did mention that ZFS will not be it will not go live as a non-experimental.
I figured. Yeah, that's okay.
I'll
Better
also
than
say-
better than making it. Better than forcing it, right?
I'll also say here for the public, if you have Ubuntu 18.04, we are not supporting an update to 20.04 because you will probably break your system. There's a lot of stuff that gets duplicated there, because it's a change in desktop environments. So there's a lot of things that'll cause some issues. So we're not supporting that. So
People will probably know, Dan, but what was it and what did you go to?
So we changed from LXDE to LXQt, and yeah. So there's big changes there.
Also, the 32-bit to 64-bit would be a nightmare too.
Yeah, nobody's going to be able to do that. Any flavor.
They'll
try.
Yeah, those desktop environments are fundamentally different. So I mean,
Yeah,
I
one's
can understand that.
GTK2 based, and the other one's Qt based. So yeah, big differences.
There is one thing to consider, and I'll put a link to it. If you're going to use VirtualBox or KVM, there is a specific issue with a driver that will possibly have you crash Xorg.
That's still happening. Huh? Okay.
That is still happening.
Microphone on what?
Is that on?
Seen that 2 weeks ago. Seen that.
Is that on specifically after you've installed it or in the live system?
After you install it.
Yeah.
Okay,
After you
'cause
install it.
I was just going through a test case and I got a login loop, so I was about to file a bug. So it's good to know that's already been found.
That's been a long standing, and I'll get
Thomas,
a link to you
I'll put the
guys.
fix in the Zoom chat, and you can tell me if that worked for you, because it's fixed it for me every time. So
sweet, thank you.
All right. Anything else we want to add to Ubuntu testing week?
Go test Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Test it. It helps everyone who is Ubuntu based and potentially some other Debian based.
Could it help you, Thomas?
Yeah, a lot actually.
So Dan Kelly's not here tonight, and I'm very upset because I wanted to basically tell him that he should have followed my advice and initiated single click before this, because his mouse died, and we want to save the mice here. So I'm just saying, Dan, I know you're going to listen to this, so I'm just telling you, I told you so. You should have did single click before this.
So your argument now for single click is because it might ruin your mouse when you click it too many times.
Well, it's going to prolong the life of it, Michael. So
I love it.
Save the hashtag save the mice. Just saying.
So the mouse I'm currently using is 8 years old. So how much longer do you want it to last on double click?
Well, it depends on how much you like this mouse. I mean, if you want it to
You
last,
could have it 16 years, Zeb. Think about it.
Think about it. You cut that. You could extend that by half, Zeb. Just saying.
If I can, in 16 years' time, if I can stop my finger from double clicking anyway,
we better move on.
I'll be very happy.
Zeb has been secretly a tiling window manager user for those 16 years using his keyboard. That's why his mouse has lasted.
No, I never use a tiling window manager because those wonderful wallpapers they give you with the shortcuts are absolutely useless when the first application that opens is full screen. You can't see the wallpaper.
You have to remember the keys. That's the point of it all. You have to memorize the keys so those wallpapers don't matter.
Sorry, who said that? Who are you?
I said it, Big Butt.
God, sorry. Whoosh, straight over the head. Never mind.
Just a scotch.
All right. Anything you guys want to bring up before we move on? Anything happening this week? Yeah. What have you guys been doing?
Well, you ask, Rocco.
Staying home.
Missing the gym. Lots and lots of missing the gym.
Yes.
Same here, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
listening to Linux lads.
Funny you should
and a
say
certain
that.
Rocco.
Why I was late.
I don't know what you're talking about, Tony.
Funny you should say that, missing the gym. My son is still out there on the front line as a delivery driver. The single biggest set of deliveries that he has been doing these last 2 weeks is dumbbell sets. For the people who can't get to the gym and want to work out at home.
I have.
go to
I have
online and
done
try to
that.
buy
I've
it.
got
You know what I love?
400 or 500 pounds of weights out in my garage, and I do use them. But as much as I have out in my garage, it's still not all the equipment I'm going to find at the gym.
Yeah.
No, but it helps for sure. Yeah, yeah.
I've loved the bands. They are so versatile in terms of like I have the thing you can hook over the door so you can do the pulls and like it. They're actually, it's not a replacement, but they are pretty good. Just saying.
Must be nice. I've been working and playing on the computer. It's been exactly like every other week for me.
It's pretty bad because I fall into that category, Dave. I mean, work-wise, they don't, but like home-wise, nothing has changed for me.
Yeah. I've been missing the gym too. I mean, for like 7 years, but I've been missing
it. Before Biddle today, I was out walking around playing Pokemon Go. So, I got 5K out of it.
Really? Really, Chris?
Yeah. Yes.
You like letting one of those 3-letter agencies follow you around?
But aren't you supposed to be self-isolating and not bumping into other Pokemon Go people as you get the elusive?
I stayed 6 feet away from people as I passed them on the sidewalk.
Oh, you know what? I did have one quick thing about the testing. I don't know if someone mentioned it. I apologize if they did. There's actually a Telegram group, Ubuntu testers, that if you are having issues figuring out like how to log something or if something's a bug, they're not developers. They're not going to log bugs for you, but there are people there that could help you figure that out.
Yeah, I think Dan mentioned it, but it'd be good to have the link in the chat for everybody. That'd be great.
I will do that.
Yep. Very nice.
A command of the week. Let's say TAR, T-A-R, Tape Archive. It's a wonderful backup tool. People should use it. You can do man-face TAR.
Doesn't
My
everybody
command of
use
the week,
tar?
CD, change directory. You're welcome.
Shut down now. Command of the week. Shut down your PC.
My command of the week, less. View a file without risking editing it. That way, you can look at your sources.list and see if you need to change anything and not risk editing it by accident.
If you have a problem with editing, you should just not touch files.
No, I like hit keys by accident and like not realize that I put something in, and then hit like Control X, and Nano goes to exit, and I get like a little bar at the bottom saying, "Do you want to save?" And I don't know what's going on because I'm not expecting it.
Nano.
Well, that's your problem. Stop using Nano. Use Vim.
Yeah, use Vim and you won't leave the house.
Yeah.
I'm not using Vim. I'm not that fancy. And I'm a poor and southern boy, okay? I'm using Nano.
That's to know why it's saved.
Luckily,
there
you're
you go,
not like.
people. We have a distro developer who's
I
going
was
to
just
give you
gonna say
Draga
it.
OS, and he can't edit a file.
I was
Good
just
luck
gonna say
testing
it,
that one.
Everybody makes errors. We're all human here.
Look, it's really easy to just go :WQ and not think about what you're doing. So I mean, Vim, maybe.
I mean, at least I know how to exit Vim. There are some people that don't know how to do that.
Can I say
hey,
that I'm
not
never
human, but I play one in time space.
I have never used Vim ever.
Oh, Rocco, you shouldn't.
Ever.
You're
lucky.
Oh, Rocco, you are not missing out.
I have never found. I mean, why would I need to use Vim? Like,
Here's the thing. I will give you.
Use Nano.
I will
Nano
give
is
you the
all I
reason.
need.
Here's the reason. You don't use Vim to edit config files because there's no point. I mean, you do if you know how to use it, but you're not going to learn it to edit a 5-line config file. You use Vim to edit large files because once you learn all of the quick ways to navigate, to replace text, to move things around, to search, to call in other tools, to use the command line. I mean, you can do so many different things, but you have to have a need for it.
That's what Sublime Text is for.
Yes,
that's what,
completely
that's what
agreed.
Michael Tennell's for. Michael, I've got a problem. Do this for me, please.
If I did, it would be in Sublime. So that I agree with Dave.
The power of Vim is the plugins, though. I mean, you can do so much with it and customize it to.
If you want to learn
there's
Vim,
also thousands of more
That's why
plugins in Sublime.
code exists.
I just put a link in for a game called Vim Adventures. You can play it online. It teaches you the Vim commands while you're playing this little pixelated type game. So Zeb
Okay.
should love it.
Oh, that
How much
sounds
does
great.
it pay you to mention that?
Rocco, if you were learning to program or something like that, and someone might suggest to you, if you learned Vim, you could actually have a really quick workflow. And that's where I've seen people who excel with it. It's not just random people who are like, I think I'll just learn Vim because,
Yeah, I've never had a purpose to learn it. So
yeah.
But isn't that a bit like the same
You could learn
meme?
Emacs. I mean,
But isn't that a bit like the same meme where people say, "Oh, if you learn I3, you'll have an efficient workflow"? Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's
the same as
kind
if
of
you install
true, but-
Gentoo, you'll have an
You
efficient.
You have to
use the
wanna learn
best
it.
tool for the job.
Yes.
It's exactly like why we
What
say
you said.
people that yes, you use the correct tool for the job. If the correct tool for your job
Sublime.
is maybe not Sublime, maybe I don't know. Yeah, VS Code. Yeah, great. Perfectly fine.
And to find that perfect code, you go to www.tuxdigital.com/perfect code.
Yes.
Well, no, to
Will
Michael's
be a thing
point,
soon.
when he said, if you're making mistakes with config files like that, you probably shouldn't be editing them. I fall into that category. So I try not to use programs
not
like Vim or
save.
anything like that. So I'm familiar with Nano, and I can get around with that, and that's perfectly fine. And I can destroy a system through that. So that's enough.
You want to know why I know Vim
Don't
and VI?
save.
Here's why I know Vim and VI. There have been distros that I've been thrown into where I only had VI, or I only had Vim. There was no Nano, there was nothing else, and it was terminal based. And if you don't at least know the basics, so it was a survival thing for me. I don't
Sudo
know how
apt install nano.
Not if you don't have an internet connection.
Yeah,
And also that used to be
When was this that you were dealing with this? Like the mid 90s? I think most of them ship
Yes,
with VI
I'm that
and
old.
Nano.
I'm that old. So
I mean,
yes,
that's
it
fine.
was.
You can be that old. You don't have to deal with that anymore.
I'm glad you gave permission.
There's a lot of servers that fall into that category.
It's a server side thing. Yeah, absolutely. You're not going to run into that on the desktop. But if you run servers and you don't know how to use Vi or Vim, you're going to have problems.
Yeah, I agree that when it comes to Vim and Emacs, so their argument is basically if you deal with servers, like they're the only real options. Because Sublime is awesome, but you can't like SSH into a terminal and still have your editor.
Yep.
I can use VS Code even from my computer into SSH system.
Oh,
Yeah,
Big
I've worked on
Quad, come
systems that-
on. You'll
Yeah, but you
enjoy
need
it.
X for
Just
that.
learn it.
No.
Come
Only thing
on,
I
you'll-
know about Vim is how to exit it and how to change Git from Vim to Nano. That's all I need to know.
Nate,
I will say the
want to
only
hear
reason
your
I
opinion.
know.
I was going to say, I only learned I've been using Vim since actually 2016. I realized there were other options. So it's fine. I mean, it's easy to use.
All right, so I have a relevant story. I worked on a system today, that had no network connection. The only way I was going to fix it was to use Vim, because you can't. I mean, it's a server, so you can't just launch, VS Code or anything like that. There's no GUI. The only way I could fix it to set the IP address was to use Vim.
So there you go.
You could also just like put the output in there and append it to the file like a total crazy person.
I probably could have.
You could literally just do echo boom.
Yeah, I could have done echo.
You cat out the
idea.
file, then you use the sed command to make the changes you need.
I could have done something like that, but it was way faster to just open it up.
Terrible idea.
I mean,
Wow. Please don't follow these instructions. Anybody, don't follow these instructions.
While I agree that was probably the fastest way to do that, Dan, for a person who doesn't know how to use Vim, you could probably also just Google the key bindings.
Yeah. I mean,
and I'm sure a lot of people do that.
Yeah, but Thomas,
USB with
no internet connection. How's he going to Google?
On your smartphone?
Yeah,
Who doesn't have a
I did have
smartphone?
my phone with me. You're right.
Yeah. And like,
There's a lot of people who don't.
the one thing that everybody who uses Linux should know about Vim is how to purge Vim off your system if you don't want it, and how to exit Vim. Notice the asterisk of if you don't want it.
Now, wait. It's possible to exit Vim?
Since when?
Yes, if you're not a first-year computer science student.
There is one thing about this, Thomas.
Back on the computer, that's
If you're working on servers, you may not have access to your phone.
Yeah.
I mean, okay,
that's
fine.
a good point.
Or if you have access to your
It's
phone,
fine.
you still may not have access to the internet through your
And if
But if you're working on
look-
servers, you probably already know how to use Vim.
Michael,
unless you're hosting your server.
You don't that you can never guarantee things today. There's some crazy stuff going on. People that shouldn't even be pressing power buttons or doing things.
Colin, please tell me you're with me and you're not a Vim guy.
Yeah, I got lost in Vim once and wondered why can't I get out of this thing? Why can't I? When I was using the Control Zero like Nano, and it just wouldn't. I was completely lost. I've got nothing to say about that thing.
So you're saying Vim is the IKEA of programming?
Just, I got no idea. When
It's a very
Thomas
easy
says,
way to get out of Vim. I've got a nice little reset button on my computer.
Control C or Control D, one of those two.
The only way I figured out how to get out of Vim, the exit Vim, was because of the meme about getting out of Vim. So I never even bothered, and I just looked at the meme up and was like, okay, cool, thanks.
I learned how to exit Vim because I actually took a Linux class, not last semester, but the semester before, and we were forced to learn how to use Vim, and that is the only thing I remember is how to exit Vim because I have Nano on everything I use.
Well, talking of exiting, Rocco.
Well, here's the deal. It is close to time, but there is one more thing that I wanted to bring up, and I don't bring it up because of just bringing it up. I wanted to actually get your guys' opinion on it and have a conversation about the latest Linux Spotlight episode with Mark Shuttleworth. So I don't know how many guys were able to watch this episode, but needless to say, to me, it was one of the most important episodes out there for the plain fact of showing Mark Shuttleworth to people as a human rather than just the guy behind the company and the guy behind the curtain. So I would like to have a conversation about that and see what you guys thought about it.
Well, I can sum it up in one word that you're quite, you like using. Awesome.
I can sum it up in 2 words. Spaceman.
Well, here's a guy who, for his status, was so down to earth and so gracious. And, you know, I've said it before, and I said it in Eric's stream, but, you know, as I was doing the interview, I made mistakes during it. And he just, like, took it in stride and didn't even bring it up and just kept on going. And it was like it never even happened. And maybe some of those were mistakes you guys didn't see because I edited it out. But the point is that he was so gracious to talk to. And I thought there were so many enlightening moments in that. Like, you know, like when I talked to him about the Ubuntu phone and the reasons why they stopped it. Yeah. And you could feel the I don't know, you could feel what he was talking about when he talked about the backlash that they received from stopping it. And then, you know, I said to him about, well, you're always going to have, you know, trolls or whatever. And he went further and said, you know, it's not about the trolls. It's about maybe the silent majority that didn't say anything when they maybe should have stepped up and said something. You could just feel what he was going through at that time. And there were so many moments in that conversation like that. I thought it was awesome to bring out so people could actually see that.
I look at this is a bit of a sidestep, and it's funny you said you started talking about this, and I'm like, why do I feel like we just talked about this? It's like, oh yeah, that was last night.
Yeah, we talked about it on your stream last night.
Just a quick sidestep. When I think of things like the Ubuntu phone, the Firefox Touch, like those projects, the timing. And it was really, both of them, I think, had a major issue on the hardware side. And then I think of like the Pine phone and what might have been if there was a company like Pine that they could have worked with to realize that goal. Because, I mean, anyone can tell you that one of the most difficult parts is going to be the hardware. And so, anyway, that's just like a thought that just echoes around in my mind because I would love to have either one of those, right? And you know, and so this is now again why I think we now have a real chance at an actual Linux phone. But good.
What I was going to say, one of my favourite parts of it, and I forgot about it when I was going to mention it, is the fact that he's a keen gardener. And I'm waiting to hear about the fact that he goes out to the back and he potters around. No, he landscapes whole counties. He doesn't. The guys, and I thought, hang on a minute, you're a gardener and you're talking about building parks and open spaces, and it's like, wow, this is a different league. And he did it as if it was nothing. So he's not bragging. That is his gardening. And that I found awesome about him. There was a multi-millionaire talking about one of his favorite hobbies, but he didn't even realize that he was talking about multi-million-pound projects, not going down to B&Q and getting his little pot of daisies and sticking them in the corner. It was just incredible. What a wonderful man.
All of that, I think, is, I mean, beyond just being humanizing and seeing him as just a normal person. What I told Rocco last night was having that block of time where it wasn't someone just asking him about Canonical or just asking him about Ubuntu or just asking him about one thing. It was, this is him as a person. These are the things he's done. I really found his background of growing up in South Africa and like his sort of history. That, to me, all of the Linux spotlights, that's the most interesting part, is where did you come from and what got you started doing what you're doing now? And there's so many parallels between all the people that have been on, no matter how, whether you're a novice and you're just doing it because you enjoy it, or whether you've taken it to the degree he has. It's the love of the technology and he's had success and failure and everything in between. And just to be able to encapsulate that in 45 minutes, that it really was a very, very enjoyable episode. So.
Yeah, I mean, he started on a VIC-20 just like me.
Well, the other thing about it was the fact that he was so consistently bringing up the people and the teams behind everything that was going on. So all of the developers and the people that work under him, he was constantly bringing that up and their efforts. So just an amazing guy. All right. Anybody else want to chime in?
What's up for next week?
Oh, well, I guess we could talk about that before the last word. Really, like I said yesterday, Eric, who's got the honorable desire to follow Mark Shuttleworth's interview for Linux Spotlight? But anyway, next week.
So you found the developer of Hannah Montana Linux.
Well,
Good man.
I didn't give this person a choice in the matter. So actually, you will all know him, Tyler Brown, from the community. Will be next week's Linux Spotlight. So trying to put together, people and see, maybe that are working behind the scenes, but also community members and just a mix of everybody. So
that's what makes it great.
Yep. All right. I guess that's going to wrap it up. We're out of time. We did get a late start, but we're still out of time. Thank you again to the Linux Mint Debian developers for all of the work they put in. We are trying Q4OS for our distro challenge for the next 2 weeks. So go check that out. But everybody gets the last word. PZ?
Well, I'm just going to go slightly serious here for the minute and say that I didn't know whether I was going to get to come here tonight because of the current situation and the circumstances we're all in. But I am so glad I did, because everybody in the YouTube channel and everybody in Zoom has just lifted my spirits tonight. You're just such a great bunch of people to come here and talk to you every week, for Rocco to put this on.
We all feel the same way, brother. We all feel the same way.
Yep.
Dan, last word.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, as always. Echo what Zeb says. This is a highlight of my week, definitely. So enjoyed LMDE. That's a good, solid thing to hang on to. I think, nice to have in the toolbox for when you need it. And I'll give Q4OS a try here, hopefully, as long as I don't get too crazy busy with, testing Ubuntu stuff and, that work thing that gets in the way every once in a while too. So.
Right.
All right. Thanks.
Nate, sir, last word.
Thank you.
All right. Very nice. Harris, last word.
Simple. It's short.
Thank you very much for the stream, to everybody who makes it possible. Excited for Q4OS. I don't know if anybody knows Dorian.Slash, but he always talked very well about Q4OS, so excited to test it out.
Yes, Dorian actually used to come on Biddle for a couple times and disappeared on us. So, Eric.
Well, as always, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for doing this, Rocco. Looking forward to QOS. Can't tell you how happy I am to see everybody's face on here, knowing that you're all still doing well, and hope that that continues. All the new folks, thanks for joining, and anyone else that's out there. We hit 33 this week. Let's see if we can hit 40 next week. I'd love to see all of you come in here and say hi. You don't have to test the distro. You don't even have to turn on your camera. Just come say hi if you want. And we'll see you again next week.
We actually hit 34 at one point.
Did we? Nice.
One time. Tony, Tony, do you have it downloaded and installed?
Yes.
Okay. Last word, Tony.
Zeb, you were quite right. The desktop profiler took 13 minutes. The install, very little time. But anyway, I just wanted to say, again, thanks to Rocco and all the other people that help run this. I always enjoy it. It's what keeps me going with Linux. And I think it's especially important at the moment, as Zeb said, with everything that's going on in the world, it's nice to have somewhere to be sociable with people, with friends, that's safe. So it's more important, perhaps now than it's ever been, to have some kind of outlet. And so I really do appreciate, Rocco, that you do this still. And I'm glad to see everybody here, and everybody looks well and appears well, which is a good thing. And let's hope we're all the same for next week. And don't forget, next week, I believe, would that not be the European version as well?
You are awesome, Tony. I completely forgot. Biddle Europe is next week. So 3 p.m. EDT.
So double portion of socializing. What could be better in the current situation?
Right. Dave, last word.
Thank you, Rocco and crew, for presenting a place where my family can gather, because that's what you guys have become to me. Thanks to Mark Shuttleworth and all the guys at Linux Mint, all the flavors, but especially LMDE. You guys have put out a phenomenal product, and you should be nothing but proud of it. And let's go have fun with Q4OS.
Peter, last word.
Glad to have a day off today, and glad to be here. Everyone's already said it. It's a great place to hang out, to kind of escape. I'm going to use that word. But I have to be serious. Please support your local food bank. We are on the front line helping you guys right now. So please support your food bank. And if you're in the States, go to feedamerica.org and donate there. So please help us. So thank you so much.
Very nice. Big Pod, last word.
Thank you for having us. And this week I will probably try to install Q4S on stream. So you can come watch me try to crash the system and play solitaire and fail at it miserably.
At both or what?
Crashing system, that's quite possible that I won't fail, but solitaire I'll fail definitely.
Okay. Thomas, last word.
Well, thank you for having me on again. It's been a lot of fun. Interview with Mark Shuttleworth was amazing. I love getting to actually see him as a person, not just as some shadowy celebrity figure who I heard about, but I never actually gotten to hear more about other than he created Ubuntu. Definitely support your medical providers and everybody else who's on the front lines with this current medical crisis. We're relying on them a lot right now. And yeah, I will be back here next week.
All right, Joe, last word.
Well, as always, again, thank you. It's been a really fun week to be involved with this, and everybody doing a little more streams during the week too. That's, I mean, if there's any plus that comes out of here, it gives us time to spend more together. And Eric, almost 5 hours the other night was a lot of fun too. So this is one thing I don't think we'll ever get tired of. It's just it's an awesome thing to have at a time like this. I just hope that everybody stays well and safe, and that this thing passes us sooner than later, of course. And I still am very hopeful for that in-person meetup one of these days, but we'll see.
One of these days, Joe.
Yeah. But God bless
With
everybody.
face
Take care.
Mitchell, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Rocco. Really appreciate this. It means a lot to me. And Linux Mint Debian Edition is awesome, and GNOME works great on it if anyone wants to try that. And thank you to the Linux Mint team for all their hard work. It really is a fantastic distro. And also, just want to say, don't take open source software for granted. Reach out to the developers and thank them. There's no reason that it even has to be here. I mean, they put in so much hard work. So please, I urge everyone, just send an email, contribute $1 if that's all you got, whatever it takes. Just don't take open source for granted. It's a wonderful thing. That's all. Thank you.
Well said. Good to have you back, Mitchell.
Yeah.
Leo, last word.
Well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it again this week. And if you guys are in the mood for more LMDE for business tomorrow around 2 p.m. Central DT, whatever that is, whatever the time is right now in Texas, come on and listen to the Mintcast. We'll be going live right about then.
Nice. You're going to put a link in here, right?
Sure will. Yeah.
All right. Explorer.
Hey, thank you very much for the great gathering, guys. Also, my deepest love and respect for the doctors, nurses, and the staff fighting the good fight for the very sick people in the hospitals. And lastly, mad props to MX and Antix Linux.
Nice. Colin, last word.
Yes, thanks Rock and Co for the live stream. Looking forward to trying probably some testing this week. And I think Dan's got me curious about Ubuntu and the changes they've made. So I've made a couple of videos on Ubuntu, so I'm looking forward to having a look at that in between as well. So, and I wouldn't mind trying Ubuntu Chillin. Ubuntu Chillin. That's looking pretty awesome as well. So I want to have a look at that. There's a few things I want to look at this week, including Q4 OS. So I'm going to try and fit all that in. Might be pretty tough, but see how we go. So everyone take care, and we'll see you next week.
Very nice. Bill, last word.
Thank you, Rocco. Thank you, Zeb. I really want to thank Mark Shuttleworth for taking the time and coming on there. It was an incredible interview. And I want to just say a big thank you to Monica Madden and Lou Coral, who I worked with in the Ubuntu Mate team, who I did so much with this week. And I want to just thank them. An incredible job that they did.
Very nice. Penguin.
Helps if I unmute the microphone. Yeah, thanks for having us, Rocco. This is going to be a busy week for me because we're checking Q4 OS for test drive, which I got that installed. It took me about 18 minutes with that desktop code file, but I did it in a VM while I'm running stream and a couple other things, so it'll probably be faster on someone else. Also, I'm just going to do a little bit of a promotion thing. I'll be live streaming an install of Ubuntu 20.04 beta on Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock. So if you have time, and it seems how we're all at home, I figured I'd do that. So have a great week otherwise.
All right, Vince, last word.
Yeah, my wife had to go out to get some groceries a bit earlier, and I said, make sure you're back by 10 o'clock because I've got to make biddle. And she did, so I'm here. I thank you guys. I am very, truly grateful. You mean actually a lot to me here. And the best news is she scored some toilet paper. So yay.
Thank you, Vince's wife, for getting him back in time.
And the toilet paper.
And the toilet paper. Joe, last word.
Thanks for having me on. Have a good night.
All right. Electron, last word.
Hey, thanks, Rocco, and everyone that makes this possible. It was the first time here, but it was an absolute blast. I really liked the opportunity to have some reason to try a different distro that I probably wouldn't have tried before. I really enjoyed Linux Mint Debian Edition, and very thankful to the Mint team for that. I'm looking forward to trying Q4 OS, another one I probably wouldn't have tried otherwise. And hope everyone has a great and safe week.
All right. Dave Jones, last word, brother.
Thanks a lot, Rocco, for having this. It's actually the last couple of weeks have meant more than I can actually phantom, because I'm located in Long Island, New York, and currently we actually have 21% of all the COVID-19 cases in the state. So we're getting hit really hard here, and to be able to hang out and see everyone has meant so much that I really appreciate it. Thanks.
You keep yourself safe and your family safe.
Thanks, you too. Everyone
Yes,
else.
ditto to that.
Yep. Good to have you, Dave. Steve, last word.
I guess to echo everybody, it's nice to have a nice outlet during the week. I know I haven't been able to get on much, just coming home kind of stressed out and all just trying to chill. It was nice to see Eric have a long one last night, because when he started, I had just got to therapy and I was looking at my phone while I was on the treadmill warming up. Got home and he was still on, popped on, and that was fun. So thank you guys. Thank you for the great community. Everybody take care, be safe, and watch out for everybody else.
See you for coffee tomorrow morning?
I'll be there.
Simon, last word.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for the stream, Rocco. Thank you to everybody else for their participation in the chat and in Zoom. Thank you to you guys in the community as well for all the YouTube videos and the live streams, and just give me a place to chat and hang out and have some company as I find myself, just like the rest of us, with quite a bit of free time. I've gone from 50 hours a week down to 14. So it's been really great to be able to hang out with people and have some company. I'm really looking forward to trying Q4 OS. Everybody stay safe and have a great week.
Chris, last word.
Okay, well, I'm trying walking Tony's footsteps here and getting the Q4 OS up on the computer. I'm looking at a blank screen with a cursor, so I got a little bit of troubleshooting to go. But other than that, people stay safe. I'm one of the few, I guess you could say, lucky ones that has not been furloughed or whatever because of the nature of my business. Yeah, but we've had a couple positive cases at the plant, and so everybody's just getting super paranoid. Hopefully, it won't be over before it gets much better. With that, back to net.
Very nice. Adam Grubbs, sir.
Well, I don't know half of you half as well as I should like, and I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve. Just want to let you know that.
Hey, thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
No, I'm just kidding. We love you too. Thanks for
That is how you social distance right there.
That's it.
And some of us he doesn't even like it all, period.
No, thank you for the show. It's good times. I didn't have much to say tonight, but it's all good. Everybody, stay safe out there. Make sure you take precautions as needed. It's some folks are in really bad areas and some folks aren't, but everybody should wash your hands and wear masks and gloves when you need to. Take it easy.
All right. Yep. Thanks, Bilbo.
Asnix, last word, brother.
Well, thank you, people, and Rocco. It's always a pleasure. I really enjoyed the Shuttleworth interview, especially his whole discussion about getting into space and dealing with the Russians. It was fascinating. I wish you would have spent a little more time talking about that, but it was good, very good. So thank you, Rocco, for that as well. Everyone stay safe, and hopefully see you next week.
Esnix, I would have loved to spend more time on that, but I was limited on time, and I had 3 billion questions I wanted to ask.
Oh,
him,
I know.
so-
I realize. Thank you, though, for doing a great job, Rocco.
Chicken.
Why, hello there. Thank you for hosting us. Thank you for, I don't know. It's just you do this every week, and I know you say you just hit record, and I don't know, that one button press though, that does actually help us a lot. We're all here because you provided us this space, and thank you to everybody watching and everybody engaging with the community. It really does mean a lot. And go test Ubuntu.
There you go. Steven, last word.
Thanks, Rocco, for the stream and having me on. Good to see everybody. Take care. Stay home. Stay safe. See you next week.
Very nice. Michael?
Yeah. So a few things. One, Front Page Linux is live, and go check it out, frontpagelinux.com. We're actually going to have Londo from Linux Plus Plus on DL's next episode, so that's going to be awesome. And also, I distro hopped this week.
No, you didn't.
I sure did.
To?
It's the
Jump back.
Well, to Manjaro so far.
Really?
Yes, I know. Of all the ones that, that was not one I expected to either.
I feel a
But
little
I did.
Ryan in there somewhere.
Well, no, it's because we had him on we had Philip from Manjaro on the last episode of DL, and he convinced me. Basically, after the end of he stayed in the patrons post show, and we just had a discussion about it. And I gave him some suggestions about like how to improve the plasma version, and he the next day he sent me messages like, "Here's a commit where we changed it." I was like, "Okay, now you got me. I'm in. I'll check it out." And so there's that, and also social distancing fist bump.
There you go. All right, Tony, the bearded wonder, sir. Last word.
Thank you. Thanks, Rocco. For anyone who's not listened to it, check out Linux Lads for this that was released this week. I think there was a certain person on there that was giving a great interview.
I don't know what you're talking about, Tony. I don't know what you're talking about.
And don't forget, it's Biddle Euro next week. It's the second Saturday of the month, so I get to be along in a social time that's acceptable to me in my sleep pattern. So I'll see you all next week at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Right, instead of 3 a.m.
Which it 3:23 a.m.
Right.
at the moment.
Thanks for being here, brother.
Cheers.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. Tony is right. If you want to go check out Linux Lads podcast this week, I got to join them for an episode, and it was an awesome time talking to Connor and Mike from Linux Lads. So check that out for episode 7, I believe it is, for this season. We're going to try out Q4OS, and that's all I got for tonight. We will see all of you next week. But until then, long live Linux.
Bye, everybody.
See you.
Stay safe.
Take care, everybody.
Yeah, stay safe.
Bye-bye. Bye, bonds.